What does losing something in your dreams mean? If you dream that you lost something like a purse, a wallet, or something else, you may be thinking that this is just your subconscious reflecting your careless or clumsy nature. Maybe even be thinking that it's okay to be forgetful every once in a while. At some level, that is correct, but there's a lot more going on here. When your subconscious sends you this signal, it indicates that you have to pay close attention to how you navigate or make sense of your day to day life. Because keeping it together, keeping your possessions in one place and not losing track of them is a key part of your overall ability to keep your life together. This is symbolic, and your subconscious may be telling you, especially if you keep seeing this type of dream over and over, that at some point or other, you're losing control. And this is making you feel helpless and ultimately hopeless. You don't want things to get to that point. So start paying attention to dreams where you lose something. It may not seem like much. It could be a small purse, a little bit of change here and there, but focus on what this means in terms of symbology. It's not just losing a cell phone. It's not just losing a bag. It's about keeping it together, finding a way back, and having some sort of system where you know where everything is and you have control over these things. This is a basic form of personal competence that you cannot lose, because if it degrades or you simply slack off, you don't be surprised if other areas of your life start to suffer as well. What does losing things in a dream mean? Generally speaking, losing dreams in a dream reflect your personal competence or lack of it. Now, don't feel too bad, because all of us can suffer bad days every once in a while. All of us can be careless. But this is not a question of just being distracted at some point and being careless. Instead, this is something that is creeping over you and starting to take over your life. What makes this really dangerous is the fact that at first, it doesn't seem like much of anything is changing. It seems like on a day to day basis, your life is the same today as it was yesterday, but pay close attention to the small details. Are there people you're beginning to neglect? Are there skills you have that you may have taken for granted? Maybe you're consciously trying to coast from one job to another, one relationship to another, or day to day. These are symptoms of something profound that's happening. And before you know it, unless you confront it and stare it in the eyes, it will take over you. You will feel overwhelmed. You feel that you're now living in this reality that you have no control over, but because you let it spin out of control. You have to be more mindful. You have to take ownership of your life. And this means competence. Manage your money, manage your schedule, manage your relationships. Because if you don't, things will get out of hand and somebody else may manage them for you. Somebody who may not have your best interest in mind. Do you see how this works? There's also an element here where you fear being distracted or careless. A manifestation of this is a victim mindset, where you feel things happen to you instead of you being powerful and aware enough to make things happen. Now, a lot of us don't get to this point overnight. Usually it takes the place of frustration. You have all these plans and they don't happen for whatever reason. So you think that you just don't have what it takes. You kind of brush things under the carpet and you move on. But in reality, the more you tell yourself, I don't have what it takes, or I'm just not cut out for that, the less competent you become in certain key areas of your life. And this is where the danger starts. it begins to grow, and your lack of confidence in key areas of your life manifest themselves into a lack of competence. You just feel distracted, or you just become a shallow thinker or an emotional thinker. None of these situations is good. And to make matters worse, most people are afraid of change. So just at the point where you need to take control, your fear of change kicks in because it seems too radical. It seems like you're diving into the unknown or dealing with a lot of uncertainty. So you kind of implode on yourself and you hang on to the things that you think you know. You kind of stereotype people in your life. You kind of put them in easy, neat, categorical baskets. But in reality, you're just refusing to take responsibility. You're just retreating into a smaller and smaller circle of confidence without the matching competence. Stop it. This is a losing strategy. On top of all of this, dreaming about losing something may also be a manifestation of grief or sadness and frustration regarding how things are panning out. Are losing things in the dream a bad thing? If you lose things in a dream and you keep repeating the scene of you losing the item again and again, this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It sure is alarming, and it's definitely a wake-up call, but it can lead to something good. First, let me get the obvious out of the way. There are things that you should lose, like a bad mindset, faulty expectations, misplaced assumptions. All of these can manifest themselves in toxic relationships, toxic self-image, you name it. These are the things you should lose pronto. Turn your back on them. Let them go. Let them loose. When you dream of losing things, this can be your subconscious trying to grasp at some sort of control, and sadly, it often tries to grasp at things that you should be letting go. There's nothing good about hanging on to a bad mindset. It's not going to help you in any way. It's counterproductive. But you get that emotional sense that you are hanging on to something. You have to fight that. Dreaming of losing things could also represent feelings of self-doubt or loss or a sense that you are lacking something. These are coping mechanisms, and in the proper context, they may make a lot of sense, but somehow, someway, you got lost along the way and you're applying them to the wrong situations, and that's why they are working against you instead of for you. When you see yourself emotionally freaked out or worked up about losing something in your dream, use this as an opportunity to take stock of your life. It doesn't really matter how good certain things in your life may seem or how well things may be going. There's always room for improvement in many cases. We often delude ourselves into thinking that things are going well, when in reality, the whole house of cards that we call our identity is actually at the in the verge of falling apart. Self-auditing is crucial. Take this opportunity to really fully understand where you are, who you think you are, what your assumptions may be, and what and where your expectations lie. Now, there is no right or wrong answer, but it's really important to be clear as to what is valuable to you and what is worth hanging on to. Does fear of loss affect dreams? A lot of people are thinking that this type of dream is really just a projection of our day-to-day waking fears. At some level, this is correct. At some level, there is a projection going on, but there's more to it than just your daily waking conscious realities, worries, and anxieties making their way into your dreams and dream symbology. You may have vivid dreams of losing something or someone important, not because these are going to happen in your day to day life, and not because you are so afraid that these will pan out that you dream about them. Instead, you may be dreaming of them as a way of working through your fear of loss and finding a way to cope in a productive way and less destructive way with losing. Fear of loss can manifest in your dreams as a symbol or metaphor, such as by dreaming of losing your way or being lost in a maze. It all boils down to a sense of helplessness, a sense of dislocation. Maybe you did something you never expected. Now you keep doing it. Maybe things have panned out because you did not think of something or you overlooked it. You have to understand that the way that you can get out of this maze, whether it is a spiritual or emotional maze, starts with your pride. Admit that you made the wrong turn. There's nothing wrong to admit mistakes. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you have screwed up, because all of us screw up. You're part of that club called humanity, and humanity is defined by its tendency to mess up. So set aside your pride and things will start to clarify. Otherwise, you're going to be in this haze, this mental fog, if you will, where you feel that it's somebody else's fault why you are where you are. What does a lost wallet symbolize in a dream? Dreaming about a wallet could symbolize a desire for financial safety or a concern about your financial situation. At the end of the day, it's really all about financial confidence. A wallet, of course, contains your credit cards, important documentation, and information regarding your bank account. It also contains information about your identity, and all of these make up your confidence. So when you lose your wallet in your dream, your subconscious is trying to project to your waking consciousness that you've lost or are beginning to lose your stored confidence. And this is going to erode your identity. The reality is that a lot of people define themselves by their job. That person, so-and-so, works at Amazon. That person I know works at a big law firm. I could go on and on. What do they all have in common? We tend to look at their identity and what they do for a living as one and the same. When you lose your wallet in your dream, a lot of this identity is under siege. A lot of this is under pressure because you are, at the end of the day, you are not your bank account. You're not your job. You are you, and you have value in of yourself. And this makes people panic because they don't have a security blanket. They don't have a fat bank account. They don't have a fancy degree from a great school. Instead, they just have themselves and they think they're naked. They think they're inadequate. You have to work on this because until and unless you have a strong foundation that is free of degrees, free of external validation, and is strong just by itself, you're going to have a tough time. What does it mean to dream of losing a purse? Dreaming about losing a purse can symbolize feeling out of control or a sense of being overcome in your waking life. It also involves a fear of losing sight of important details. These are the coins of your psyche. These may seem less important on a day-to-day practical level. In fact, a lot of us may associate these with mental and emotional busy work. But in reality, you have to store them somewhere. And if you lose your ability to keep track, your ability to prioritize, and ultimately your ability to see the big picture as far as your day-to-day coordination of small life details and who you think you are, and as well as your greater identity, you feel so distracted, and before you know it, you feel that you're less competent, and this can lead to all sorts of challenges. How does a dream about losing a purse relate to self-identity? This is really just an extension of the previous section above. But the main focus here is memories, our memories. Memories define us. Seriously. Did you know that there's really no physical difference? I mean, at least beyond the superficial, between you and Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the world. You may be laughing at this idea because Mr. Gates obviously has billions of dollars to his name. But when you look at yourself and one William Gates in terms of hardware, it's easy to see the similarity. You're both human beings, you both have 2 arms, 2 legs, so on and so forth. In terms of hardware, there's very little separating us. I mean, of course, there's the superficial, like color, height, weight, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, when it comes to hardware and the physical abilities that come with such hardware, we're pretty much the same. What separates us is our software. Who we think we are, what we think we're capable of, what we can do and stick to repeatedly on a day-to-day basis. This is what separates Bill Gates from everybody else. This is what makes you, you. And a lot of this is tied to your memory. And when you have a dream of losing a purse, the fear of losing the memory stored in that purse is a fear of losing yourself. Usually people have this type of dream if they're uneasy about the long-term relationship that they're going to get into. Maybe they have become engaged or they have decided to get married and have gone through the ceremony or are about to go through the ceremony. You see how this works? You fear losing yourself. But in reality, your bigger fear should be a fear of false or exaggerated memories. What if I told you that a lot of the things that you believe to be true about yourself are flat out lies, exaggerations, or simply misunderstanding? And it really is a tragedy that people choose to live their lives a certain way or deal with people in a counterproductive way because they thought they experienced some sort of trauma, or if they did experience that, they choose to interpret it and deal with it in such a way that doesn't really do them any favors. So please understand that memories define us. It's as if this is our mental operating system. And the good news is it's software. It can be changed. Hardware is harder to deal with, but software can be changed. What should one do after a dream about losing a purse? So what practical ways can you deal with this fear of losing yourself and issues regarding your identity? Well, the first thing that you need to do is to take a self-assessment. There are tons of self-assessment tests out there. The internet is littered with all sorts of personality profiles. Take as many of them as you can. Get a good idea as to who you are and what you assume to be true. The next step is to question what you assume to be true about your sources of confidence in key areas of your life. Is it true that if you have a lot of money in the bank, you are happier and you're more confident? Is it true that when people look up to you, that you are a worthier or better person? Pick away at all of these assumptions until you get to your personal truth. It also helps if you engage in some sort of cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to have to talk to a professional counselor. While you can definitely do that, there are also all sorts of online resources where you can engage in cognitive behavioral self-therapy. They are self-paced. You don't have to rush through them, and they can be customized to deal with your situations and specific details. What does it mean to dream of someone stealing from your purse? This is a very tricky dream to interpret. So let's back up a little bit. The purse represents the small details in your life that you manage. These are your assumptions and expectations about how life should be and how you should handle them. Again, small details that really add up to a lot. They're part of our mental operating system. When somebody is stealing from your purse in your dream, your subconscious is telling you that you may be the victim of somebody poisoning the well. This is just a fancy term for saying that people are feeding you information that may not necessarily be true. They want it to be true, they hope it is true, but they feel that the more they broadcast this distorted, shall we say, view of reality, that the more people believe it, the more real it becomes. It's kind of like a shared delusion, if you will. Well, your subconscious is telling you that it's detecting some sort of shared delusion. This is called undue influence. So be very careful who you allow to influence you. This is especially true when it comes to TikTok and other very addictive forms of social media. You may be thinking that you're making a decision because you're your own person. You've done your research and you are making that decision that is in line with your values. Well, that's how your rational mind justifies whatever it is you're doing. But in reality, you're emotionally reacting to what influencers may have dumped into your mind. You may be thinking that you're just looking at this really awesome video from TikTok. It's very engaging, it's funny, it warms your heart. But in reality, it's changing your values. It's changing how you assume reality should be or what you expect from people. And if it's particularly destructive, it could be poisoning your well. So does this mean that you should be paranoid? Well, not really. Know the difference between paranoia and well-placed suspicion. Choose your influences carefully. Make sure that whoever is influencing you does so because their values line up with yours. This is the big problem with social media influence because it is so insidious. It often operates outside your emotional and rational radar. And before you know it, it sinks its hooks in you and you start thinking and talking a different way. What does it mean to dream of losing money? Dreaming about losing money may represent fear of financial insecurity or a lack of control over your financial situation. This is the most basic meaning for it. Like the rent is due, you owe people a lot of money, your credit card bills are stacking up. None of this is a surprise. None of this is unheard of. But it goes deeper than that. When you feel like you're losing money, it's not because you have no money. You fear lack of control. Because a lot of people assume that having a lot of money means control. It means some level of mastery. On a deeper level still, it can indicate a fear of lack of possibilities. Because when you feel that you don't have any money, you automatically restrict your options. You say to yourself, I can't go here, I can't do this, I can't be this because I have no money. It's kind of like a ready excuse for not trying. Because if you really want to do something and really want to go somewhere, you'll find a way. But having no money just provides an easy excuse for not having to try. And before you know it, the more you repeat that mantra, I have no money, I can't do this because I have no money, I have no money because I can't do this, or again and again, it becomes your identity. Another way to read this is a fear of being short-handed when it comes to resources. In other words, you see an opportunity, you want to take advantage of it, but you have no resources. You see a wall, and behind the wall there's a pile of gold, but you have no ladder. So you focus on the ladder as it exists and in its a specific fixed form. You stop thinking in terms of possibilities. Another way to interpret dreams of losing money indicates a very strong tendency on your part to fear missing out. FOMO is very real. And I wish I could tell you that FOMO leads to good things. But in the age of crypto, Ponzi schemes, and digital scams, FOMO almost always leads to people getting burned. Now, if you participate in a Ponzi scheme and you're in in and locked in and sell out early enough, you can make quite a bit of money. But that's not most people's experience. Whether they're dealing with crypto scams or any other type of online pyramid or Ponzi scheme, they usually get burned near the middle or the tail end. In other words, they become victims. So when you fear that you're losing money in your dream, make sure you do some basic analysis of FOMO. Do you have a very strong sense that you're missing out? Do you fear being left out? How does this work against you? Be clear on the situations where it does work against you. What does lost or stolen money mean in a dream? When you look at the lost or stolen money as the main focus of your dream, your subconscious is telling you that these are lost opportunities. They came by, you could have taken advantage of them. In many cases, you had the resources, but for whatever reason, you didn't. I'm not just talking about money here. I'm also talking about your career, your relationships, even your personal well-being. Another way to interpret this type of dream symbol involves regrets. There are things that you could have done or should have done or would have done, but for whatever reason, they didn't pan out. So understand that it's not the money that you lost, but what that stolen or lost money represents. And which leads me to the final interpretation, which is lost possibilities. You have to understand that when you're not doing something, you're paying a cost because you could be doing something else that could be making you more money or could lead to better happiness. Do you see how this works? These are called opportunity costs. So when you see lost money in your dream or stolen money, your subconscious can be giving you signals regarding opportunity costs that you'll continue to pay to this very day. How do interpersonal relations affect dreams of losing money? Maybe you feel someone else is responsible for you. Maybe since when you were a child, somebody was doing the budgeting, somebody was doing the spending, and all you need to do was just to basically lean back and benefit from those decisions. Well, that's great if you're a child, but eventually you have to grow up. Eventually you have to move on and level up. And you cannot always expect somebody to make the hard calls for you because we're not just talking about money. We're also talking about your relationship, your well-being, and your personal decisions. Losing money in your dream can indicate strains in your relationship with that person with that tremendous amount of influence. And when that happens, we have this tendency to blame that person. We say to ourselves, why did you make my life the way it is? Why did you screw me up? Well, in reality, you were just dependent on that person. The only person that you can truly blame is yourself because you allowed yourself to be dependent on that person. What would a valuable item lost in a dream mean? The key here is the focus on value. Because things only have value because you give them value. Focus on what things mean to you. Focus on what things really indicate in terms of value and utility. Stop focusing on the price. Why? The price in your dream represents external validation. It represents other people's values and priorities. They may not be yours, so it doesn't make sense to use those as indications of value. You see how this works? Be more proactive. Be more independent. Just because everybody seems like to say that something is worth something or something is worth hanging on to, doesn't mean that that has to be the case. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to make the call. Does it make sense to you? Is it valuable to you? What does it mean to dream of losing a cell phone? This indicates issues with lost freedom, lost convenience, and ultimately lost memory. As I've mentioned earlier, your memories are what define you. Because when you lose a phone, it's not just a question of losing the information in the phone, but also the contacts and the apps. You can recreate them from memory, but believe me, it's a hassle. It's as if you were stripped naked because you have to start from scratch. And it's murder to think about the stuff that you may have lost or overlooked. And it's no surprise that when people dream of losing their cell phone, What they're really experiencing is a fear of displacement or disruption in certain areas of their life. Maybe this could have a negative effect on their performance at work, or this can make them more suspicious when it comes to their boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other. What does losing a bag in a dream mean? Losing a bag in your dream can represent some aspect of your ability to provide and secure for yourself. This can indicate that you are feeling dependent on somebody else opening doors for you, or you feel that somebody else is responsible for your well being. The truth is, the only person that should be responsible for you is you. Everybody else got problems of their own, so leave them be. Focus on your ability to make sense of things and order things in your life. And a lot of this has to do with interpretive power. How do you interpret things to be important? How do you sort things? How do you value things? Well, we have to do this ourselves. But unfortunately, a lot of us hand this power over to somebody else, somebody that they think is an authority like their parents. And when things go south, like they normally do, who do we blame? We blame our boss. We blame people in authority. We blame our parents. We blame our friends and family. We blame everybody except for ourselves. But here's the issue. Who turned over that interpretive power in the first place? What does it mean to dream of loss after losing something? Now, if you actually lost something in life, and then you have these dreams of losing money or losing things, what your subconscious is telling you is that you need to avoid the tendency to overthink. Use this sad and sorry experience as an opportunity. Learn the things that you shouldn't do. Learn the things that you should focus on, and be aware of the fact that your mental operating system counts for a lot. It organizes your reality, it dictates your emotions, and ultimately leads you to certain actions, which in turn provoke a reaction from the rest of the world. This is how you change your day-to-day reality. And by taking control of this process at the level of thought, you start making changes that will lead to greater opportunities. And if you lose everything and your mental hard drive, so to speak, got wiped clean, don't be afraid to look at this as the best gift you could ever give yourself. Now you have a blank slate. Now there are no excuses. Now there is no way for you to escape responsibility. Everything is on your plate. Everything is on you. Use this as an opportunity, and this could be the very best blessing you could ever give yourself.